We've been involved in the retailing of wine for many, many years. So when the family made the decision that they liked the idea of getting involved in viticulture, then Margaret River was just the obvious spot to go, both in terms of lifestyle issues and, of course, it is well documented what a magnificent region it is for the growing of grapes and the production of absolute premium wines. It's fair to say that over a couple of years we looked at many potential sites in the Margaret River, and in particular that Wilyup region. But there is no doubt when my wife and I found this particular site that it was pretty obvious that this is where we wanted to be. It is indeed an absolutely beautiful property. It sits high on the hill at the entrance to the Wilyup Valley, and on our first day we were looking out over our neighbours, which included Moss Wood, Evans and Tate, Piero, Brooklyn Valley. All of the absolute premium producers of West Australian wines were at our doorstep, and it was quite obvious that this was the spot for us. We planted our first vines back in 1998, and I think we harvested our first grapes in 2001. So having made such a serious commitment to the viticultural techniques and the best practices on the vineyard for so many years, when it was time to launch into the actual production and the making of wine, it was equally imperative that we formed an alliance with the very best possible winemaker that we could. Larry Cherubino, who was well known to us as being a prominent young winemaker, well regarded within Australia, with an international reputation, many awards, consulting for some of the leading producers within Australia and also overseas. So we became ecstatic, of course, when we managed to talk Larry into becoming involved in Pedestal Wines, making our wines, consulting and working with us in the development of the Pedestal label. Pedestal Wines enjoyed its first vintage in 2008. And of course, Larry Cherubino are very closely involved in that process. And as I said earlier, you know, he is the consummate professional. And it was absolutely of interest to all of us to see how we went about that process of deciding when it was time to pick the fruit and get it down to the winery.
Very healthy, because I mean, you look at all the bloom.
I guess the things that we're looking for in the fruit are very vibrant flavours. We're looking and focusing a lot on texture, so a lot of the decisions we make about those things are based on the tannins. It's very much about having a good understanding of what certain parts of the vineyard can deliver in terms of their flavour, their ability to get fruit riper than other parts of the vineyard. So from a vineyard or a single site, it's about maximising every row, every block, every vine to give you fruit flavours and textures that help create a wine that is complex. And that's a lot about what single vineyard winemaking is all about.
For economical reasons, most fruit these days is in fact machine picked. However, our absolute commitment to excellence means that our premium Cabernets are all hand picked. They're delivered to the winery in whole bunches, and from that point our winemaker Larry Cherubino has the opportunity to assess those bunches individually and make sure that only the very best fruit finds its way into Pedestal wines.
When we're talking about winemaking at this level, what we're trying to do is deliver fruit into the tank without leaves and stalks and little bits of cane. So when we're hand picking and we're not bashing the fruit off the vine, we're hand picking it, we're delivering it to the winery, we're putting it over a sorting table. We're just talking about delivering fruit to the tank with nothing else, just pure fruit.
Yeah, see when that just pulls off beautifully like that, it's perfect.
That's how you want it?
Yeah. If you pull them away and there's pulp on the pedestal.
Was it just still green?
Yeah. And plenty of colour.
Yeah.
As far as our processing goes, I guess it's not the most practical. Everyone sort of clenches their teeth when the fruit arrives to the winery because it does take a long time for us to process our grapes. The first point of entry into the processing system is the destemmer, and because it's whole fruit, we remove all the stalks. The second part of it is we have a primary table. What we aim to do is shake out all the small berries, and now Those berries that are shaken out of that sample tend to be high in acid and greener in flavour, and you don't need a lot of that. 1% in an overall blend can actually change the quality of a wine, so we're taking that out. The sample that we end up with on the other side of this, it looks like, in your hand, they look like punnets of blueberries. It's just pristine fruit, and that's all we're sending to the tank. The quality of fruit that we get out of the vineyard allows us to be very hands-off and really try and create styles of wine that have plenty of flavour and lots of texture without being heavy. They're the sort of wines that we want to create. I think all of the processes that we use in terms of fruit sorting and our fruit selection are really aimed at getting all the differences into the winery, keeping them separate in the winery, and then when we get to the blending process, we put all those differences together. We know that we're ending up with the best possible and the purest expression of the grape that we can get.
It can be said that Larry starts the winemaking process back in the vineyard, and he's very particular with regard to selecting parcels of fruit from various spots within the vineyard, parcels which he thinks have slightly different characteristics. And these parcels he follows and tracks all the way through the winemaking process, through to the barrels, where eventually from those barrels he brings them into the blending room, where he starts to mix these various parcels to make sure that he can try and absolutely optimise the quality of the wine.
And what we're tending to get from the Pedestal Vineyard is a very fine tannin structure with plenty of colour, but very well-defined fruit flavours and very fine tannins. So a lot of the choices out in terms of our winemaking and our oak selection are all sort of centred around what's best in terms of really bringing out what the vineyard can do. As far as our white wines go, we really want to create a wine that is very expressive, more of a bit of a grown-up style of Sauvignon Blanc Semillon. So we're trying to look for some of those tropical flavours, but also hold on to some more of those sort of citrusy, minerally sort of flavours in the Sauvignon Blanc. So minerally cut and just very sharp definition of fruit flavours is what we're looking for in our Sauvignon Blanc Semillon. With our red wine making style, what we're looking for, again, and I'll say it again and again, is that we want a light frame. We want really well-defined fruit flavours. We're looking for fruit flavours in the darker spectrum, and we're looking for tannins that are very, very fine, very sweet and very long. We really like the aromatics of the grapes to come through. We like our wines to be grapey and vinous rather than oaky. So a lot of the oak regime that we use, we're looking for very long seasoned oak, very tight grain oak that's not toasted for too long. For our Cabernet Merlot, that would spend 8 months in barrel, which is probably a year less than a lot of the traditional thinking at the moment, but probably we use that year extra in bottle to really let the wine come together before release. So those things, they're really, really important to us, that a wine actually smells like fruit and actually you can tell that it's made from grapes rather than wood. Vibrancy and life and personality is really important. And having clarity in a wine and being able to see fruit rather than having to work your way through layers. It's about fruit expression and nothing else.
At Pedestal Wines, we're committed to making premium wines. We believe we have a premium vineyard in what is no doubt one of the most premium grape growing regions in the world.
It's all about creating something that is going to go on and be there for a very, very long time. And we want to be there in 10 years' time and count ourselves amongst the best in that part of Margaret River or within Australia and be a benchmark.